Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 on how to make this crochet cardigan. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I'll put the link in the description below. And let's get started. Okay, next we're gonna sew the back panel and the two front panel together at the shoulder seam here. And I already went ahead and sew one shoulder here. So, right here. Okay, and I'm gonna show you how to sew on this shoulder. And before we sew, make sure you place the wrong side facing up, right side facing down. And we're gonna sew on the wrong side, and we're gonna use the tail that we left earlier from the front panels to sew into the back panel at the shoulder seam. Okay, so for my front panel, I have 29 stitches here, and then I count 29 stitches on the back panel, and then I place this stitch marker right into the 29th stitch together, the front and the back panel, and we're gonna sew those 29 stitches together. Every size is different. This is just for size small. Alright, so right now all the panel wrong side facing up, and I have my yarn needle here. And I already insert my tail into my yarn needle, ready to go. And let me zoom in a little bit. So the tail comes from the front panel, and I'm just gonna insert my needle into the back panel, into the first stitch, which is the third chain there, like that. And then I'm gonna insert into the first stitch on the front panel, right into where the tail comes from, and then sew the first stitch there. Okay, and then I'm gonna insert into the next stitch on the back panel here. I insert into both loops, okay, and then insert into the next stitch on the front panel there, and then bring it up and repeat that. So insert into the next stitch on the back panel here, and then next stitch on the front panel there. Bring it up. Next stitch on the back panel, next stitch on the front panel. Bring it up. This is what I'm gonna sew, and you can use any method you prefer, and make sure don't sew too tight or too loose. So I'm just gonna repeat that. I insert into the next stitch here, and then insert into the next stitch there, and then bring it up like that. Okay, next stitch here and next stitch there. Alright, I'm just gonna keep sewing this back and forth until I reach the stitch marker, which is 29 stitches, and I will be back. Okay, after I sew the shoulder seam here until I reach the stitch marker here, and I went ahead and weave the end already, and you're gonna sew both shoulders exactly the same. Whatever method you use, you're gonna use the same. Alright, and then after you have both shoulder sewn, I'm gonna show you how to sew the sleeve into the main panel. And I already went ahead and sew one side of the sleeve here into my main panel, so both sides sew exactly the same. I hope you understand what's going on here, and just in case, I'm just gonna show you in the paper here real quick. So I will say this is my back panel, which is this one, okay, and here is my front panel, this one, and here is another front panel, this one. So we already sew the shoulder seam, right? And here is the sleeve. I already sew here, which is right here. And here is the other sleeve, right here, which is this one. And I'm gonna show you how to sew this one right here. Alright, again, we're gonna sew on the wrong side, and you can use any method you prefer. Okay, let me turn this side so easier to see. So for my sleeve, I have 45 stitches, right? So I have 22 stitches I place on the front panel, and I have 22 stitches I place on the back panel, and I have 1 stitch left at the middle here. So I'm gonna sew that stitch into the shoulder seam. Alright, and then I place 13 rows. Start count from the row after the shoulder seam. Okay, I have 13 rows, and then I place the stitch marker here. The back panel, exactly the same. I count 13 rows, and I place the stitch marker there. I just want to explain to you what I'm doing here. All this doesn't matter. Just make sure when you sew the front and the back panel nice and even on the sleeve as well. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna use the tail that I left earlier from the sleeve to sew. So here is the wrong side, okay? So first, I just gonna remove the stitch marker, and then remember that stitch, okay? And then I insert right into that stitch that I just removed the stitch marker. And then I'm gonna sew into the first stitch on the sleeve here, and then go into the same stitch that I just insert my needle into, just to lock the yarn. Lock the stitches, okay. Alright, so you can use any method you prefer. I just gonna sew like I sew the shoulder seam, but this side is a little bit difficult to see the normal stitches because we're gonna sew into the end of the row on the front and back panel. But whatever you do, just make sure it's nice and even. That's all important. So I'm gonna insert into the next stitch on the sleeve here, and then insert into next stitch there on the front panel. Bring it up. Next stitch here, and next stitch right there. Next stitch here, and next stitch here. Next stitch here, and next stitch here. Next stitch here, and next stitch here. Alright, this is what I'm gonna sew, back and forth. Just take your time. You're gonna check as you go. Make sure it's nice and even, okay? Yeah, I'm just gonna keep sewing this all the way until I reach this orange stitch marker, and I will be back. Good luck and take your time. Okay, after I sew until I reach the last stitch marker there, I already went ahead and weaved the end already. I hope you have the same. Again, both sleeves sew exactly the same. And after you have both sleeves sewn, next we're gonna sew the body of the cardigan together. So to do that, you're gonna fold your cardigan in half at the shoulder seam with the right side facing each other. And then we're gonna sew the body of the cardigan. So we're gonna sew at the bottom here all the way up until we reach the armpit, and then we're gonna continue sew the sleeve all the way down till the end. Alright, so to do that, cut a new strand of yarn. I cut about 70 to 80 inches long. I just like to have extra. Okay, make sure that you have enough. Alright, I'm gonna start sew this side here. I'm gonna turn this way, and then I'm gonna insert into the first stitch here right at the bottom. Okay, this is the front panel, and then insert into the back panel there right into the first stitch on the corner. Bring it out, and then I'm gonna sew into the same stitch one more time just to lock the yarn here. And then, so this side also difficult to see the normal stitches because we sew into the end of each row. But whatever you do, just make sure both sides is lining up like that. See? The bead stitch row gonna be straight like that. That's all important. And make sure you sew not too tight and not too loose. And use any method you prefer to sew. And then next stitch here, next stitch there. And then next stitch here and next stitch there. And then next stitch here and then next stitch there. Oops. And then next stitch here and next stitch there. Okay, that's what I'm gonna keep sewing. See, it's nice and lining up. Beautiful. All right, and when you come to this armpit, make sure the back corner there and corner here of the armpit is lining up as well. Alright, very important. And then you're gonna continue sew the sleeve the same all the way down to the end. And at the end, you can go ahead and weave the end and you're done. And then the other side, you're gonna do exactly the same. Sew the side seam all the way up till the armpit and then continue sew the sleeve all the way down till the end. And then you're gonna go ahead and weave the end. Alright, so yeah, I'm just gonna keep sewing both sides and then I will be back. Okay, now I have both sides sewn and I also went ahead and weave all the ends already. So you just need to weave all the ends and you're done. And now I turn the right side of the cardigan out. Here's what it looks like on the right side. It's kind of big, yeah? It's beautiful. Yay! Congratulations! I hope you enjoy making this beautiful cardigan. If you did, please give this video a big thumb up and share this video with your friends. And I would love to see everyone's work. If you want to share with me, just text me on Facebook or Instagram at KnitCrowAddict. I also gonna put all the links in the description below as well. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next video. Bye bye!